Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey, back with another video, and today's video is going to be about Kasperi Kapanen and 5 potential trades for him this offseason. I'm going to make it like the other videos, where it's more like the Leafs trade targets, and do a couple where it's more of the trade structures, but for Kapanen, I do think the Leafs want to keep him. He's at a very ideal cap hit on that right side. He can fill out that top 9 and even step in that top 6. He's very versatile, speed, he's got a bigger body, and we've seen him blow by guys and score goals, and he just needs to find more consistency, but we've seen it this year where he goes through these crazy streaks. But Kapanen could be that one piece where the Leafs get that defenseman in return. So I'm going to go over 5 scenarios here, 2 honorable mentions. If you are here and you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, smash that like button, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. So there's some hot takes, some more reasonable. But let's start with the Chicago Blackhawks, because I do think the Blackhawks are going to make some moves here. They fired McDonough, and we don't know if they're going to bring back Bowman. It's expected that Bowman's going to get another year, but I do think there's going to be moves for the Blackhawks. And for a guy like Connor Murphy, who's at a $3.8 million cap hit, a right shot defenseman that could fill out that top 4 for the Leafs, that could be an ideal candidate moving the other way back. Do I think it should be Kapanen straight up for Murphy? No. In my opinion, I don't like the idea of overpaying. We've seen Taylor Hall for Larson. We've seen other ridiculous scenarios where you're overpaying just to get that right shot defenseman. And I don't like the scenario if it would be Kapanen for Murphy straight up. But Dylan Strome could be an intriguing piece here, because in a separate deal, and I might make a video for this separately, the Leafs might be trading Kerfoot. They might be trading Andreas Johnsson. So for a guy like Dylan Strome, there's already been trade rumors. He's a Toronto boy. I'm just putting the thought out there. I'm not necessarily saying it could happen, but I do think there has to be another piece on top of Connor Murphy for the Leafs to move Kapanen. So they would be getting the fit with Murphy and something else, and the Blackhawks would be getting a top 6 winger, in my opinion, and Kapanen, who can score 20, 25 goals. So that's my opinion, but I do think the Blackhawks could be, I would say, a destination for Kapanen, and I think there could be a trade worked out potentially with the Leafs, maybe not with Kapanen, but Connor Murphy is definitely a target for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Next up, the Edmonton Oilers. So this is another trade scenario I was thinking about, because Adam Larson, he's been tied to the Leafs in the past. Same with Matthew Benning. I would say Benning is more of the cheaper option because he is a pending RFA, but not really the ideal scenario. He is a right shot defenseman that could maybe fill in that third pair. So if he's an RFA, maybe he signs for in around $1.5 million. Jesse Puljujarvi is an interesting one. I have him here as a target because, again, if you're trading Kapanen, this could be a bigger deal where maybe the Edmonton Oilers bring in a guy like Dermott, or maybe Baracco. There was some rumors there that the Edmonton Oilers, they have some forward spots. Baracco wants that opportunity. So I'm going to talk more about this in, like I said, in maybe a separate video, but if I could just throw out a trade scenario there, maybe we're talking about Kapanen, Baracco, and Johnsson going to the Edmonton Oilers, and Adam Larson and Puljujarvi going back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's just a thought, again, maybe somewhat of a hot take, but I think in terms of value, that's not too bad. The Leafs would be getting their fit in terms of top 4 right shot defensemen, and I think Ethan Bear can step up, and maybe Chris Russell you have on that right side instead. He has played on that right side, or maybe you go out and get a different right shot defenseman. Larson's at a reasonable cap hit, 4.1. Puljujarvi needs a change of scenery. He'd be joining a fellow Finn, potentially if Kapanen stays in that deal, but if Kapanen goes, you're swapping Finns, of course. And Johnsson would just be a cap hit going the other way, but Johnsson can be a very good top 9 forward. So it's very interesting. Lettinen, was the Finn that I was thinking about. But yeah, Kapanen, it depends if he's part of this deal, but I do think the Leafs and Oilers could be another 2 teams that do make a deal this offseason, more because of the fit. The Leafs are willing to give up a winger or a bottom, I wouldn't say bottom, but in around a middle 6 guy or a third line guy in Johnsson or Kerfoot. So I could see either guy being part of a deal with the Leafs. And there was rumors leading up to the trade deadline that the Oilers were inquiring about both Kerfoot and Johnsson and potentially Kapanen as well. So that's something to think about as well. But yeah, they just signed Lettinen, who's a Finn, and Puljujarvi, we know his struggles. Again, I'm just throwing out a bunch of ideas, but I do think there could be something there. Next up, the Minnesota Wild. So more of a hot take here. I do have Ryan Donato here as well, because he, in terms of his production, and I think it was like a 25-game stretch last year, it just wasn't the same production this year. But Ryan Donato is a very cheap cap hit, $1.9 million. It could be a reasonable option if the Leafs were sending maybe like a Johnsson back to Minnesota. But if it was Kapanen, I could see Kapanen being the central piece if they wanted to go all in for a guy like Matthew Dumba. In that scenario, they would have to shed at least 2 of the contracts of Johnsson, Kerfoot, and Kapanen. Obviously, Kapanen possesses the most value of those three, and Johnson and Kerfoot would probably have to be in that deal. So Dumba, obviously a higher cap hit when we're talking about $6 million. So that's something to consider. But I do think it's a hot take. Dumba would probably be that prime defenseman to pair up with Morgan Rielly. Dumba can provide some offense. He would probably be able to step on that second power play unit as well. Sandin's there as well, who can definitely grow into that role. So I see the potential of it, but this is definitely a more unlikely scenario. All right, so this one's been talked about, I feel like, for 2 years. Josh Manson going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, 28 years of age, and he is at a $4.1 million cap hit, huge frame, and he's a guy that just runs people over. So Josh Manson, I think he's a bit overrated by Leaf fans. Like, I think some Leaf fans think this guy is like an absolute perfect defenseman. He's got a lot of issues. He's slow on transition. He's not going to bring you a lot of breakout or, like I said, transition, but he's great in terms of the physical nature. He's great for the most part in terms of structure defense. So I will say Manson would be great for the Leafs, but if I'm talking about Kapanen plus, I just wouldn't do that from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm talking about Liljegren and a first-round pick, I wouldn't do that from the Toronto Maple Leafs. If that price comes down for Josh Manson, I could see it being a possibility. For Leaf fans on the chat or other people, do you think Kapanen for Manson is fair? I mean, it's just really for both teams. I think the Leafs really value Kapanen and see that top six potential of consistently scoring 25 goals. And the Anaheim Ducks are holding on to that value of Josh Manson because he does have 2 additional years at a $4.1 million cap hit. So they're holding on to that value for a big right shot defenseman, and those do not grow on trees like I've discussed. So it's interesting. I could see it going down. There is potential for it. But again, I think at this very moment, the value that's held with Manson, I think it's unlikely. And the last one, the hot take of the video, I would say maybe not as much of a hot take in terms of the value, but more of a hot take because they're in the same division, the Buffalo Sabres. We rarely see trades made, especially considered the Buffalo Sabres are a division rival. But Brandon Montour, Henri Jokiharju, Colin Miller, and Rasmus Ristolainen. I'm looking at 4 guys that literally fit the Leafs' need. I mean, more, I would say, for a couple of the guys, like Brandon Montour was a guy that was tied to the Leafs at one point. Colin Miller is probably that perfect scenario for the Leafs. Again, I think he was a little overrated by Leafs fans, but he is at a very reasonable cap hit. Henri Jokiharju could be a very interesting one, but I do think the Buffalo Sabres are going to keep him. I'm just saying in terms of cap hit, obviously, and in terms of potential, it depends. I mean, if the Buffalo Sabres are that desperate for forward help, Kapanen could be a guy that fits on that top pair, or top line, with Olofsson and Eichel. And then Rasmus Ristolainen, does he need a change of scenery? We saw the Lightning rumors. Could he still be traded? I do think there's potential for it. But let me know in the comment section below. I do think out of these 5 scenarios, there's a couple other scenarios I could throw out there. Like, I think the Predators could be one. Ryan Ellis, that is a high cap hit. Could be a similar situation to Dumba, just a high cap hit. Could be an ideal situation for the Leafs. Do the Preds probably want to give up Ellis? No. And for the Carolina Hurricanes, there was rumors of like a Pesce for Kapanen plus, and I really don't know if I would do that for the Leafs, but man, Pesce is an ideal scenario. Again, just over $4 million cap hit. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I would definitely consider that. But then again, I think the Carolina Hurricanes want to keep Pesce, and they want to keep that structure. I would say, again, maybe Dougie Hamilton would be an option for some people, but Dougie Hamilton only has 1 year left after this year, and well, I do think Dougie Hamilton's a better defenseman than Tyson Barrie. It could be a situation of you're just putting 1 year faith into a defenseman that might not work out. So it's going to be interesting. I do think Kapanen could be traded this offseason. In my opinion, do I want that? Not necessarily, but sometimes, obviously, you got to give from where your current strength is at to improve your point of weakness. So I might make a video overall on what I could see for the Leafs lineup and a couple moves I could see them make and moves that are very realistic that could make that happen. Thank you for watching again. Please do subscribe if you're new. Smash that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.